Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg. I'm continuing my series about Robert Silverberg, who is probably the only surviving, one of the very, very few surviving older science fiction writers at this point. We just lost a couple of great ones, one of which was Christopher Priest, who really was one of my favorite authors, and sad to have the news of all these authors dying on us. Silverberg is still with us. He is pretty old, but he's still with us. I don't think he's really writing anymore. He writes a column for Asimov's science fiction, but otherwise he hasn't been writing fiction. And that's fine. He's written so much over the years. I've got a huge bibliography to go through for this series. And so adding more to it is just going to be like, oh my God, I'm never going to finish. But I am on his sixth published work, which is titled Yokel with Portfolio. And I happen to have a copy of the original magazine. This is where I read it. This is a copy of Imaginative Tales from November of 1955. I got a hold of this. And cover doesn't illustrate a story, but the story Yokel with Portfolio is in this magazine. And I have seen a PDF of this online, so you can get a hold of it. Get a hold of it that way. So what is Yokel with Portfolio about? It's about a guy that's coming from an Earth colony by Alpha Centauri. He comes to Earth. There's a lot of other stars that have been colonized, lots of colonies out there. And this guy comes to Earth because he needs new technology and help with new tools and techniques to help their colony keep going and keep viable. So he comes back to Earth to appeal to the colonial minister on Earth. He wants to set up a meeting with this minister and finds that it's next to impossible. He meets up with somebody who's from another world in the Centaurus system, who's been there for like 5 years, constantly, every day, trying to get further through the process to meet with the colonial minister. And this guy, it seems like it's impossible to get in to see this minister. And that's a setup for the story. But the way that he finally manages it is interesting and clever and a lot of fun. It's a fun little story. It's not a great story. It's a fun little story. It's 1950s science fiction. It's short, so don't expect huge characterization or world building. It's focused just on this one problem and how this guy solves it. And he solves it in a very good way. I was thinking it's an easy story to read, and it's lighthearted. Nothing challenging about it. I was thinking it's a really good short story for a kid that wants to get into science fiction. Instead of trying to get your kid to sit down with a 1,200-page monster book, or even a 600-page huge book, you could hand them a short story like this, and this might fire that him or her. You can hand your child a story like this to read, and it would get them into it in an easy, quick way that doesn't require them to spend hours and hours of their attention focused on it, and is simple enough that it's not going to be too difficult for them to understand what's going on. They may have a couple questions to ask, like what's Alpha Centauri? But otherwise, they'll get it. And it may fire up an interest in wanting to read more. And then, you can move them on to successfully more difficult works. But this would be a very good introductory type of story for science fiction for a young person. Nothing politically incorrect in it that I saw. So, but not a top tale. Definitely not a top tale. So have you read Yokel with Portfolio? A little bit hard to get a hold of, but like I say, PDF online of Imaginative Tales magazine. So if you've read it, leave comments. Otherwise, leave comments about Robert Silverberg. Do you have anything about Robert Silverberg that would be interesting for us to hear? I'd like to see the comments. Leave them in the comment section of the video for all of us to enjoy. And come on back for more. My next Robert Silverberg story will be a story titled Hole in the Air. And this is moving into the year 1956 now, which is going to be a long year to get through. This will be the first one for 1956. Hole in the Air. I hope you'll come back and join me for that and all the other Silverberg stories I'll be getting to and all the other authors that I'm talking about. I'll be here doing it.